Really quick before the video begins, I just want to let you know I made 3 iPhone wallpapers that match the color of the Alpine bands. So it's gonna be orange, white, and green. There's a link to download those in the description. They're totally free, just pay what you want. You can just put 0, totally free. So yeah, I just thought it was a fun thing to put in this video. So go ahead and download those and let's get into the actual video. So I've been using the Apple Watch Ultra for a week now, and I feel like as a power user of the normal Apple Watch that I'm a pretty good person to make a 1-week video about my thoughts on the Apple Watch Ultra. To preface this, I do consider myself a pretty active person. I work out almost every single day, but the thing that I wanted to talk about the Apple Watch Ultra the most is that even though this is designed as Apple's most rugged, most durable watch that's made for extreme temperatures and extreme impacts, the average typical person wearing this isn't going to be experiencing those things on a daily basis or even a weekly basis. Now, while there is a subset of the population who is going to use this thing to its maximum potential, they're going to be hiking and mountain biking and running and jogging and doing all these crazy activities every single day. They're going to be going scuba diving with it. The majority of people who bought this watch, and most likely you, are going to be using that very sparingly. And the other 99% of the time, you're gonna be using this as a normal watch. So I really wanted to make this 1-week review in the point of view as how does this function as a watch? And then on top of that, how does it function as a very durable outdoor activity kind of watch? Because those are kind of 2 separate parts to it. And the first part of it is honestly the part it's gonna be used more for. So if you don't know much about the Apple Watch Ultra, it's basically Apple's most durable and rugged watch they've ever made. Unlike the Series 7, Series 8, which are available in 2 sizes, 41 and 45 millimeters, the Apple Watch Ultra only comes in 1 size, and that's 49 millimeters, so it's 4 millimeters bigger than the biggest Apple Watch they've ever made. And it's big. It looks visibly big on your wrist. You can definitely tell that it's a different watch than the Apple Watch Ultra. And I'll say this really quick about the actual styling of the watch. I've seen a lot of people compare this and say, you know, if you wear other size watches, if you wear non-smart watches like G-Shock watches, they're big and they're not necessarily that much bigger, or if not the same size as the Apple Watch Ultra, so you might be more comfortable wearing it. And that is true. I do agree with that. But on the other side of that, this almost looks comically big if you're used to using a normal Apple Watch, an Apple Watch Series 5, 6, 7, 8. It looks so much larger. Now, one thing I didn't notice, which I thought I would notice a little bit more of, was the weight, because the Apple Watch Ultra is significantly bigger than the previous gen Apple Watches, or even the newest gen, but the smaller size. So I thought one thing I would notice is the weight difference, and you really don't. However, one thing I did notice is that as I'm wearing this throughout the day, I can kind of feel like my wrist getting like sweaty underneath, which doesn't happen with the normal Apple Watch. And I don't know if it's because of the size or the band material, but I definitely feel like a little bit more worn out under the actual Apple Watch itself, which I don't usually feel that on the normal Apple Watch. Now, one thing I did want to mention before we get into more of the daily use of this is more about the comfortability and actually wearing this on a daily basis, because again, this is kind of unlike any other Apple Watch we've ever seen. So there's a lot of different things that you wouldn't necessarily think about. Now, I chose the orange Alpine band, and I chose it, not gonna lie, because it looks really cool on camera. It stands out, it's very orange. Like if I look up at the monitor here, it stands out so much that I think it's a really cool choice for a visual piece of the band. So the appeal of these different bands for different uses, and this one is supposed to be like woven together with an anti-corrosion clasp on the end. So it's basically just really rugged, durable, and it's able to go outside and do activities without breaking or falling off or coming apart. However, I will say there's 2 parts to this that I'm kind of conflicted about. The first is that the material and like design feels cheap for a potentially $80 to $100 band. It looks really good, and it's gonna hold up most likely. You could pick up one of these on Amazon for a lot cheaper. And of course, it's not gonna be as good material, but is it really a $60 or $70 difference of quality between the two? Probably not. The second part of this is comfortability of actually wearing the band. So the orange Alpine band is very weird because the clasp at the end is this kind of like hook mechanism. So there's no actual clasping, there's no clicking, there's no locking into place. The way that it actually works is there's set distances for all these different loops around your wrist. And the way that you connect them is you loop in the Alpine band clasp, or whatever you call this little piece here at the end, hook, and you kind of pick whatever one is most comfortable on these loops and you stick with that. My problem with this has been I cannot find, for the life of me, one that feels like it fits. Like it's either too tight or it's too loose, and I can't find a good in between. Like this feels okay, the one it's at now, and I'll put some B-roll over this because it sits weird because the band doesn't really like hold tight to itself. So when you hold it up, the bottom half of the watch like kind of poofs out a little bit. And again, these aren't huge issues. It doesn't change the functionality of the watch itself. I'm just comparing this and saying for an $800 watch, I want it to feel more premium on the band, at least. I like premium things for that price point, and this kind of feels like a not premium solution. It looks really good. It feels fine. The actual usage is not great. The other thing is that this little hook mechanism is not the most like easy thing to do, because once you get it in a point where it's tight on your wrist, then it's hard to get the loop into a right spot because it's so tight here, there's no give. So you either have to hope that there's one right where you need it, or you have to come back a little bit, which is obviously gonna make the watch looser. So overall, the mechanisms for this band and the band itself are not my top choice, but it looks good. So what can you say? Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the actual specs of this thing. I'll just read a couple of them off real quick so you kind of know what we're working with here. So the Apple Watch Ultra has a front sapphire crystal that's flatter, so it's supposed to reduce impactability. You can't damage it as easily. Also on the crown and the side buttons, there's also a titanium casing around them to protect them from drops and impacts. It has an MIL STD 810H rating, which is just a really weird way to say it's military grade approved. It can get up to 2000 nits of brightness, which is always welcome. Brighter screens are always a plus in my book. Now, the other thing that Apple really talks about is that this watch supposedly has a 36-hour battery life. And in my testing, I found that to actually be really true. The battery life is one of the most impressive things on this thing. If you are somebody who has an issue with the battery life on a normal Apple Watch and you want to upgrade to something that you're not gonna have to charge every single night, this is definitely your best bet. I've gone 3 days on this thing and I have 18% battery at the end of the third day. So I 100% believe that you can probably even maybe get more than 36 hours out of this if you don't use it really heavily during the day. Now, to kind of focus more on my experience in the past week using this for activities and workouts and those kind of things. The number one thing that is really different about the functionality on the outside of the watch is this new action button on the side. And it's kind of weird because you only get one case styling for this. You can only choose it in titanium, base titanium. There's no colorings. And the button on the side is orange. It's always going to be orange. So if you don't like the titanium and orange color combo, maybe don't get this watch because you can't change it. There's nothing else. That's all you get. So what this side button does is basically give you one tap accessibility to do certain actions within the Apple Watch. And I've set mine up to do, if I tap the side button, it's going to start an other workout. So it opens the workout app, basically selects other workout for me and just starts the workout. My thoughts on this side button are kind of conflicted like everything else because it's really awesome to have that convenience at your fingertips. And if you're somebody who maybe is doing things in the water a lot, or you're somewhere where it's really cold and you're wearing gloves a lot and you don't have time to tap through, you don't want to take your gloves off, those kind of things, this side button probably provides awesome functionality for you. But coming at this review from a normal everyday person who's wearing this, it's kind of weird because Apple's almost made their system so good that this side button is almost irrelevant for most people. And I say that because the new Apple Watches have all these widgets on the front of them. So for me, I use the side button to start a workout. But if I wanted to start a workout without that side button, all I have to do is tap my widget on the front of my app and then hit other workout. So instead of one tap, it's two. Again, for the average everyday person, if you're not using this in extreme environments all the time, you're not really gaining that much from that side button. It's really cool, and I think it's very well done, and I actually appreciate the orange and titanium look to it, but you're basically reducing your taps from 1 to 2 to do certain actions. So my biggest complaint isn't really a complaint, it's just that Apple's made it so easy to do things on the current Apple Watch that this side button is almost kind of weird because it doesn't really help that much more than the current widget system on the new Apple Watches. But again, this watch is made for a lot of people like astronomers or divers or mountain climbers or mountain bikers. So there are situations where your hands are sweaty, you're wearing gloves, you're underwater, you don't necessarily want to be tapping through. So I definitely see the utility of that side button. I'm just saying for normal everyday use of the average person, you're not going to gain that much unless you're actively doing some sort of crazy activity, which is good because that's what the watch is made for. So if you're spending $800, hopefully you're doing some activities. Now, just a few more notes on the actual usability of this thing. The bigger screen size has been a joy. It is so cool to open your wrist up, to slide your wrist, twist your wrist, whatever way you show your watch to yourself, turn your wrist and see this massive screen to view everything. I mean, even when I get text messages, I can read entire full text messages on this screen, whereas on the Apple Watch 8 or 7, you're really just getting a preview. On the Ultra, you can basically read entire paragraphs of text. Same with workout. When I'm working out, I get so much more information. I can see so much more on the display. And overall, that has been an amazing part of this watch. If you're buying this watch for nothing else than to have a bigger Apple Watch display, go for it. Because out of everything else, if you remove this extra side buttons and the extra durability and all of that fanciness, it's basically just a bigger watch with more screen real estate. So if you're somebody who likes bigger, chunkier watches, you want a bigger screen, the Apple Watch Ultra is actually a really good choice for you. Now, there are a couple things I've talked in my other videos that I really appreciate about the Apple Watch because I really appreciate the safety aspect that Apple has kind of designed into these. And the one real difference about the Apple Watch Ultra is it has a siren that I'm not gonna set off right now because you can hear it up to 300 meters away. So I'm not gonna set that off in my 20-foot by 20-foot office. But it has really cool safety features built in. So again, another feature, if you're somebody who goes on hikes, or you go outside mountain biking, that alone might be worth you buying this. It's a really cool safety feature that the normal Apple Watches don't have, and it actually provides a ton of utility for people who don't necessarily do crazy activities every single weekend or every day. But if you're somebody who literally just goes mountain biking once a month by yourself or goes hiking or jogging, that alone could be enough for you to buy this watch because it has so much utility. So now I totally understand there is going to be a subset of people who do go diving every weekend, who go skydiving every weekend. There's going to be these people out there. So if this is you, this is not a bash on you, not saying you should or shouldn't buy this watch. You're kind of a different target market. And even though Apple says this is a rugged, durable watch for outdoor extreme activities, at the same time, they're going to sell it to people who don't necessarily do that, or they're going to make these people think that they're going to do those activities every single weekend when really they do it a couple of times a year. Now, what I'm going to personally be doing is sticking with the Apple Watch Series 8. And there's a few reasons. One, I'm not somebody who's going to get the full use out of this thing. But even if you're not, you still might want to get this watch. If you think of this watch as just a bigger Apple Watch and you want to buy it for the bigger screen real estate and everything else is just kind of an addition that's nice to have that just happens to come with it, that's a great way to think of this watch too. But I don't really like bigger watches. I like the size of my Series 8. I think this one kind of looks ridiculous on my wrist, so I'm going to be sticking with the Series 8. But yeah, if you have other experiences, let me know in the comments down below. I'm always interested to hear what other people have to say about their experiences with these kind of things. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.